Okay, so I guess we're sticking with the tradition that we have to start every new year with a goddamn horror movie.
Apparently so.
So, here we have, we have our big new release for today. We have one movie that's from last year, and then we have two small releases that are 2015 as well.
Mm.
And naturally we're going to start with the big one, which is The Woman in Black 2, Angel of Death. I didn't know how to subtitle until we were watching the movie. Naturally, I knew this existed. I knew The Woman in Black 2 was happening.
Mm.
But honestly, it was not until like a couple of months ago when we got a trailer for it. I thought it was straight to DVD.
It looks straight to DVD.
I really thought it was. So I just kind of like ignored its existence until you said we had a trailer for it. So that was exciting because it's the perfect setup for a straight to DVD movie because the first one ended just fine.
Mm-hmm.
If I recall, I know it's been 3 years now, which is weird, but as I recall, I haven't seen it since February of 2012, but as I recall from the first movie, everything was solved and tied up.
Yeah.
And everything was resolved and wonderful. But, fine. I guess that made enough money to where they thought they could make more off of it. Or something. So there was an open slot in January. So, because Paranormal Activity 5 was supposed to be in the slot for a while. And then they pushed it some more. I don't even know where it is now. It might be next year or something.
No, that's this year. I don't remember exactly when it comes out.
Probably Halloween.
No, actually, I think it's coming out early this year. Like in March or something.
Well, we can't wait for that, can we?
We'll look into it.
Okay, so, it opens and it is London in, what was it, 1941?
Mm-hmm.
And we have this, who was the actress? I was trying to figure that out through the whole movie.
Hold on, I got cast list, give me a minute.
Okay. Well, anyway, our lead actress is a woman that is stuck with these 4 children because their parents can't leave London because of the war. So they get on a train and they're going out naturally to the haunted house from the first movie, basically.
Phoebe Fox.
Okay, that's not ringing any bells. This must be like her. She's either from a TV show or this is like her kind of breakout thing. It's one of the two.
She was in One Day, and it was like a really bit part.
Okay.
Switch, TV show.
Okay.
Nope.
So now, naturally, like I said, I try to go into movies open-minded, but for the longest time I could not get past how unnecessary this movie felt.
Yeah.
That it really, really should not exist. And it's clearly just, cashing in on the fact that people will go to horror movies in January. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Now, I will get... Okay. The first one had an issue that I knew was also going to be a problem. The first one was really atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
And had some, good performances in it. Had some, really, stellar actors in it. Daniel Radcliffe was a star of it. Kieran Hines was in there. And Jane McTeague was in there.
Yeah.
And it had kind of... It really was... It was surprisingly atmospheric for the kind of movie that it was.
I think it worked quite well.
Yeah. But even so, despite the atmosphere, the director and the sound guys were obsessed with jump scares.
Mm-hmm.
They made them happen as often as possible. Like I said, nothing will be worse than the quiet ones, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also Hammer, by the way, so I guess it's like a... I don't remember Let Me In doing it.
No.
But, at least that I remember.
I don't recall it either.
But, Let Me In's like over 4 years old now, so it's hard to say for sure, but... And this one's so I was going in thinking, well, this one's just some cash-in sequel. It's probably going to be 10 times worse this time around. But I was surprised that the technical aspects that I liked about the first one are still here. There is like a genuinely creepy atmosphere, and there's really great production design, and the cinematography is surprisingly really good. But as far as, like, actually being scary, there is a huge difference between scary and just creepy. And it's totally cool to be just creepy. That's fine. But this movie clearly wants to be scary. And it's going all the wrong ways about doing that. Like, we have... Okay. So... Okay. For starters, we have some more characters here. We also have Helen McCrory, who is in... She was Ben Kingsley's wife in Hugo. I think she was in one of the Potter movies. In real life, she's Damian Lewis's wife. That's mainly how I know her, actually.
Fair enough.
And we have Jeremy Irvine from Warhorse, among other things. So, and he's like this kind of fighter pilot in the war that she naturally comes across, and he's her love interest, but he's also got to be like the hero that's always there when danger strikes. He can just come in. He might as well have been wearing a fucking cape every time he was on screen after a while.
He was dressed like the Flyboy the whole time, so yeah, nice aviator jacket and everything.
Yeah, God.
I know.
And our other main character is kind of, there's always a kid that is tortured by the spirit. It's always a kid. And in this case, it's a kid named Edward, I think was his name.
Yeah, it's Edward.
And his character trait is that he doesn't speak. I guess something traumatizing happened. They might have explained it, but I probably missed it. But he just doesn't speak. He does the Paul Dano in Little Miss Sunshine. He has a notepad with him that he writes with and communicates with people. But the trouble with that...
He weighs so much paper.
Was... Well, the thing was that's the way he communicated, and they didn't... I probably would have made fun of the movie if she, like, read all the notes out loud, because she obviously wouldn't need to do that. But still, his writing was so sloppy, and the cuts to the notes were so fast, you could never tell what he was saying. And I think some of it was important.
There were a couple of times I could figure it out, but it was very few and far between.
I get, like, if we were lucky enough that it was legible enough to read, I get about halfway through the sentence before it cut away real fast, so it was hard to say what he was saying. I don't know if it was important or not. I think some of it was, but it doesn't matter. I guess you can use context clues in the rest of the scene to figure it out if you have to. So fine. Great character trait there.
Yeah.
And do you think maybe possibly during the climax he might actually speak for the first time? I don't want to give anything away or anything. But yeah, it does have a good creepy feel to it. The constant fog thing seems like it'd be like a gimmick, but it works fine. Now, let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about all the things it wants to do to be scary that kind of end up failing it more than anything. Okay, so naturally, all of these are... I actually remember some of the jump scares from the first movie 3 years ago.
Wow.
There was the moment where he was like standing out in the fog, and then suddenly the dude was there, which would be fine by itself if it weren't for the fact that the soundtrack screamed at us.
Yeah.
There was the girl like in the peephole in the door or something along those lines. Now here it's kind of the same shit. We have there was the blind guy in the window, where he's not just in the window, he kind of appears in the window, and there's like here's what this movie does, and I'm not saying it's necessarily better, it's just a different way of doing it, I guess. In normal movies, when the jump scares happen, and it's the score that screams at us, now it's the sound guy screaming at us, because, so the guy just kind of appears in the window, but he makes a very loud sound when he just appears, even though there's nothing really there to make that noise. And there's a moment where she's just like walking through the hallway silently, so something's coming. And one of the kids, there's this bully kid that he's that kid that exists just to bully. He has no purpose in life except to be born to torture people. So he runs in, and I guess they're playing tag. So that's the scare they use. He runs in and he tags her, but when he tags her, it's like this massive stomping sound. It's like, he might as well have just punched her in the face.
Well, real quick, this is something that really annoyed me in the movie when it comes down to it. That tag scene you're talking about. You know how you normally count to 10 and everything, and by the time you have to go hide... You know how hide and seek works, obviously. Well, one thing that really annoyed me...
Were you going to bring up the clapping in The Conjuring?
Well, that and the fact that, I swear to you, they skipped 6. I never heard them say 6 once. It goes from 5 to 7. I'm not kidding you.
Now, and even so, it actually gets desperate to the point that there is actually a scene where a kid pops into frame and says "roar."
Yeah, with a mask on.
Yeah,
Man, that was
and there's that, and it just gets it gets worse about that as it goes to the moment where she's okay. This one's annoying. Here's the thing. I understand maybe you want to do a false thing and you do a real thing, and it's like, oh, real payoff, whatever, but. There's actually a moment where they put a fake jump scare in a scene that's already going to have a real jump scare in it. Mm-hmm. There's the thing where she's looking out the window and she sees like the cross and the snow and all that, and then just a fucking bird flies by. Yes, this is one of those movies that uses the fucking bird to scare you. And then like 30 seconds later, they do the woman in black shrieks. Oh, yeah. I'll bet the director just came all over that. Because, of course, the Woman in Black's gimmick is when she's not just lurking in the darkness or in the background, she's right in front of the camera screaming. Yeah. And that's just what she does. That's the kind of movie it is. And we have to deal with it. As much of a fucking hit. It's not like, it doesn't even work as a jump scare. After a while, it just gives you a fucking headache.
Yeah.
So that's a whole lot of wasted potential with this movie. There's what was that? Like, she's walking through, like, the garden and there's, like, bells on a fence or something.
Yeah.
When you have such a nice, creepy atmosphere, you don't need to be this desperate. It's like they were just terrified that their creepy atmosphere wasn't going to do it for people. So they had to do all of this. Like they were absolutely horrified that they weren't scary enough. Just doing the atmospheric thing. So, fine. And they go into all the possible, we're trying as hard as possible to be scary as we can possibly be cliches. There's a whole bunch of creepy toys, like it's fucking Poltergeist. There's a lot of flickering lights.
Yeah.
There's a lot of light switches that don't work. Now there is one cliche, horror movie cliche this movie uses that is kind of just a cheap way to get creepiness in there. But, whatever, because... yeah, it always works on me. There's one really creepy thing that they put in this movie that's in a lot of horror movies that I just can't do. I just can't deal with. And that is ghost children.
Yeah.
I can't do ghost children. That is... you put that in the movie, okay, fine. That will creep me the fuck out if that's what you want to do. Fine. But other than that... hello, Sinister. Fuck you.
Oh my god. That's not a versus that will ever happen.
Sinister is the reason I do not take my dog out at night.
Really?
Like never. He's got to go out at, dusk, and then we're going inside forever. Until morning.
I will clean up all messes if I have to.
He can wake me up at, 6 in the morning to go out, fine. But we're not going out at night.
Sinister messed with a lot of people's heads, especially everybody, really.
So yes, that's what's so annoying about both of these movies, is there's so much potential in these movies with their setup and just how they look and how they're, presented to us. But they just want to do the cheap shit. That's all they're interested in after a while. Because there is even that scene at the beginning, right before fucking Window Guy came in. When they get the flat tire in the middle of nowhere, and they're just in, that creepy, woodsy area with that building there.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, flat tire, how original, but still, the atmosphere is so creepy. It did have a genuine fear, a feel of dread thing happening.
Definitely.
But they always found a way to fuck it up, which is terrible. And here's another big issue here is despite the problems that I have with the first movie regarding that kind of stuff, there is one big scene that's like the centerpiece of the first movie that is scary as hell. I'm of course talking about the scene where it's raining and he looks out the window and he sees the kid rise from the ground and the kid walks up to the house and he's like knocking on the door and then there's like muddy footprints in the living room. That whole segment was freaking me the fuck out.
Yeah, it works very well.
There's no scenes like that in this one. There's no genuine scares here. There's no actual scare that really stood out enough to like really say that it worked. So that's a huge minus as well. So, yes, as a movie that should totally have been straight to video, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
But still, it's way too much wasted potential. So that sucks. All right, we're gonna go back to last year for a second. And even though last year was only a couple of days ago, I know, but
that's how it works.
Our second movie is going to be Top 5, Chris Rock's new movie that he wrote and directed. Where he was I've seen a lot of Chris Rock interviews where he talks about how big a fan he is of Woody Allen.
Yeah.
And then he went on record to say this was basically going to be his Woody Allen movie. Which I only really got that vibe from the opening scene. The opening scene is like straight out of a Woody Allen movie, absolutely. Like even the way it's shot and the way it opens. But other than that, it kind of felt like its own thing.
It's getting a lot of critical praise too.
Yeah, a lot of people really love this movie. The story of it is basically a satire of the career on decline and the funny guy whose career is on decline, so he tries to get back into the good graces of audiences by doing a really serious movie. He actually makes a reference and refers to it as a Django-type movie. And when you see the movie that he's in, and the movie within a movie, it's basically like a cross between Django and 12 Years a Slave.
Wow.
And, we see all the trouble he went through and how he became... Because he battled alcoholism, but it's all told in flashback. Well, not flashback, per se. Half of it's in flashback. Rosario Dawson is a reporter that's doing a story on him. And they're basically walking around the city and one day she's doing, an interview with him while he goes about his routine. While he's plugging this movie. Uprise, I believe is what it's called. And that's what it is. We see, how he ended up in jail and how he overcame his alcoholism and his past relationships and stuff like that. He's, and it satirizes a lot of things. His fiance, Gabrielle Union, is a reality star. So there's a lot of digs at that. There's a very, very long cast list of mostly familiar faces that only have one or two. Chris Rock and Rosario Dawson are the only ones that are pretty much in it through the whole time. Everybody else is either has one scene or is just kind of there. Let me see if I can figure all these out now.
I got this.
We mentioned Gabrielle Union. Roman Malco is the kind of like the director of the reality show that his wife stars on. There's Kevin Hart, who is like his agent, I guess. You Kevin Hart fans, of which I am not a part of,
Nope.
might be disappointed to know that apparently he was big in the advertising for this movie. I guess he was in the trailer, and then you see there's a lot. I've seen a lot of advertisements that advertise it as Chris Rock and Kevin Hart. Well, this scene in the trailer where he's in his office and they make the Zoolander joke is Kevin Hart's only scene. That's it. And then we have JB Smoove, who I love so much, is his driver and basically goes around with him. He's kind of like his Kevin Durant in Cosmopolis. That's basically who JB Smoove is.
Nice.
There's a great scene towards the end where he goes to his bachelor party at a strip club, and he's hanging out with Whoopi Goldberg, Adam Sandler, and Jerry Seinfeld playing themselves. There's a really brief but hilarious moment where Jerry Seinfeld gets into an altercation with a stripper. And Sandler has a couple of really good lines here. Funniest Sandler's been in a couple of years. So yes, there's a lot of people I'm sure I missed. Tracy Morgan is in his family. I couldn't tell who was who in his family, but Tracy Morgan's somewhere in his family. I'm not sure how they were related. It's worth noting, now that I heard the scene, now that I saw the scene after just hearing it in the trailer, when I would hear Kevin Hart in the trailer, I thought he was Queen Latifah. Like, I'm not even joking.
You never told me that.
Like, go back and watch that trailer and close your eyes. Yeah, I thought Kevin Hart was Queen Latifah when I was listening to the trailer, so...
Wow.
Let's see, did I miss anybody?
Yeah, there's a lot of names actually on here. Ben Vereen's in this.
Oh my god, yeah.
Doug Stanhope and Brian Regan are in this. Louis Guzman, he's in the trailer.
Yeah, he's in the Hammy the Bear movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically, he did the franchise movie. It's kind of like, the Fatties movies with Jeff Portnoy and Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
I was afraid they were kind of ripping that off, but they play it up in a different way, kind of. A little bit. I suppose a lot of the satire in this movie does owe a lot to Tropic Thunder, but...
Probably.
Still, Rock still puts his own thing on it, and it's fine. Before I talk about the movie itself, I want to talk about another movie. Chris Rock said something there was a writer's roundtable with him and like Gillian Flynn and Jon Favreau and stuff. And they were talking about their movies. Jonathan Nolan was there. And Chris Rock said something that really, really disappointed me. Because, like, I really wish I could see Chris Rock face to face right now so I could tell him this. He didn't mention it by name, but when Chris Rock was at the Writers' Roundtable, he was talking about how he was really proud of this movie, and he wanted it to really do something because he said his last movie, I guess he was disappointed in, and, like, it didn't do very well at all. Like, he said it bombed horribly. And he never mentioned the name of it. I don't know if he was ashamed or if he just didn't want to say the name or what, but obviously Chris Rock's last movie before this was I Think I Love My Wife. Mm-hmm. Which, if you know me, you know that I think that, first off, I Think I Love My Wife is a remake of Chloe in the Afternoon, which is a very well-respected movie from a very respected director. And I thought Rock topped that movie. Because I Think I Love My Wife is this really just great... It's a movie I loved a lot. And it was one of my top 10 movies of that year. Mm-hmm. And that year was one of the best years in movies ever. 2007. But that movie has always just really, really hit something with me. Because I thought it totally captures Chris Rock and Louis C.K.'s humor. Because Louis C.K. co-wrote it with him. Mm-hmm. But it's also like a really elegant movie about relationships. And I just thought it's a really, really great movie to me. I know I've always been alone in that, but I just think that movie is really, really great, and it clearly did not get the acclaim that it was due. And I guess Rock was disappointed with it, from my understanding. So he kind of wanted this to be what that was supposed to be to him, I guess. And yeah, it's getting a lot of acclaim and a lot of, attention critically. The Globe snubs are a little surprising, but...
Yeah, really.
It did have a nice showing at the Critics' Choice, so there's that. The one thing is that I was liking this movie for a while. Cedric the Entertainer in this movie, my god, is... He was easily my favorite part of the movie. Because because we have this flashback of his meeting with Cedric is basically more or less how he ended up in jail. to make a long story short. And just his deliveries and just this character in general and how he went for it, I just thought was hilarious. That moment, even something as small as making fun of hotels for putting locks on their hangers. Just the way he does the, hey man, I'm just gonna take some of your wooden hangers. I really need some hangers. Oh, they got the lock on them.
It sounds like Booker T.
Yeah, it's such a simple joke, but that's fucking hilarious to me.
Did you laugh at it when you were listening to when you didn't see the trailer?
No, because I didn't know the context. Like, I heard that they got the lock on them line, but I didn't know what he was referring to. The fact that he was referring to hangers in a hotel room is fucking hilarious.
That's in the trailer, but I mean, it's not... I mean, if you're just listening to the trailer, you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So I can understand.
Now, I was liking this movie for a while, and I never disliked this movie, but I liked it a little less in the second half, because it really shifts its focus.
Mm.
Because it goes from being that, you know, satire of Hollywood and, you know, the image of people and stuff like that. And halfway through decides it's going to be a love story between him and Rosario Dawson, obviously.
Mm.
And I thought it kind of lost its way there a little bit. I wasn't as into it once it decided to go that route instead. Because it kind of basically abandons the satire approach and goes all for the all for that. And I don't know. I thought it was, you know, if it had been, you know, I feel like there was enough there to where he could have made it entirely just a Hollywood satire movie. But you know, it's fine. You know, she's an appealing actress, and she's very good in the movie. And they're very good together, but I just kind of, I didn't like it as much once it made that turn. And it's like literally like halfway through, like exactly, like he intentionally split it into two halves or something. So, yes, and even then I wasn't really getting the Woody Allen vibe. I only got the Woody Allen vibe from the opening scene before they showed the title. So, yes. I do see what he did here, and I understand him, and I'm glad that he's getting acclaim for it. But this acclaim really should have been happening to his other movie, you know. So, yeah, that's what that is. Okay, now we're back to this year, 2015. And for a very interesting movie. I saw the poster for this movie forever ago, but now it's finally here. This is a movie called Predestination that stars Ethan Hawke. Now, before I say anything here, before I say anything at all, I'm going to do something that I sometimes have to do, where I say, you can approach this review in one of two ways. If you don't want to know anything, like if you don't want anything spoilery at all, do not watch this review at all. Because this is one of those movies that's basically, there's spoilers to an extent, just explaining what the plot is. Because it's just that, you know, yeah.
It's that type of movie.
But, so yeah, go in totally blind now if you're that kind of person. And it'll be interesting to see how you come out. Because that's what I did here. I had no idea I thought I knew what this was, but I clearly didn't. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Just go in really open-minded. And you're in for a trip one way or the other, whether you think it's good or bad. You might appreciate that you went in blind if you do. However, if you're somebody that kind of wants to know what they're in store for, let me guide you. I'm not going to spoil everything by any means, but there is like, okay, basically for me to tell you, this movie is about an hour 35, and for me to tell you the story is telling you about the entire first half of the movie, maybe more. Like the first 50 minutes or so is what you know going in if you know what the basic story is. And now I have to apologize to somebody before we go on. This is based on a short story called All You Zombies, by the way. Like, I guess people are like accusing it of being like a ripoff of it, but the short story actually gets credit in the credits. when I talked about Jezebel, I kind of cracked down on an actress that I refer to as Australian Emma Stone, but her name is Sarah Snook, and when I reviewed Jezebel, I said that I wasn't sure exactly how to take her as an actress, and Jezebel didn't do her any favors. I didn't think her performance was particularly strong in Jezebel, so I wasn't sure how to take to her. Well, I actually heard about her performance too before I saw the movie. Like, I didn't know anything about the movie, but I knew people were praising her, like, immensely. So I was curious, because I thought, you know, when I saw, like, Not Suitable for Children, I was like, you know, I would like to see more of her, but I can't tell if she's good or not. Her performance in this, let me explain this to you. This is how it went down. Now, I like to think, you know, I have a pretty good grasp on her. I've only seen her in a few movies, but I've got, you know, I know her face when I see it. This movie opens, and Ethan Hawke is a bartender. And this gentleman comes in that's kind of a cross between Edward Furlong and Frank Whaley. And this gentleman sits down, and he and Hawke kind of, you know, shoot the shit, and then we kind of build and build to this. And then this guy is just going on, and I'm like, this is very interesting. I wonder who this guy is. Because they're talking about the Fizzle Bomber.
Okay.
Who is... We'll get into that in a second, but... they're talking about all kinds of things. And this guy is telling Ethan Hawke his mysterious story. And he's saying, like, you know... I'll bet you this entire bottle that I can tell you the craziest story you've ever heard. And Ethan Hawke is so confident because he's heard so much shit and seen so much shit that he sets a new fresh bottle down and says, I will give you this for free if your story impresses me. So the guy's kind of telling the story, and that's when it hit me. This guy is Sarah Snook.
Really?
Yeah. Like, halfway through, like, I get, it's like she kind of turned or something, and I guess it was kind of her, she kind of has a distinct mouth, too. And when I saw her at that angle, I was like, holy fucking shit! Because the voice, she's doing a real guy's voice. And it's like, I don't think there's any, like, effects here in her favor. I think she's doing it all herself. It was, holy shit! And the general plot, like I said, this is like the entire first half of the movie, but it's really just the setup. Which is, she started off as Sarah Snook. She started off as Australian Emma Stone. And long story short, she's got like, you know, a birth defect or something's wrong with her system. And she's slowly turning from a girl into a guy. And then it turns out that this person may be the key to what Ethan Hawke needs, because Ethan Hawke is this time-traveling agent that is out there to stop this Fizzle Bomber, is what they call him. And that's, like I said, that's like the entire first hour of the movie, but that's just the setup for what's to come. And... yeah, this has some twisted shit in it. Now the problem here is, the interesting thing about it was, there's a lot of twists. There's a lot of, the whole movie's basically a twist from beginning to end. But there's 3 big reveals, we'll say. Now, when I was watching it, the first big reveal should have been obvious, but I didn't know it until it happened. And that's when I realized that this movie kind of had me. Because I was so interested in what was going on screen. I imagine the reason I didn't figure out what the twist was going to be, even though it seemed so obvious, was that the movie had me engrossed enough to where I wasn't thinking ahead. I was just watching the story unfold, because it had my attention. Which is a big compliment. However, once that reveal happened, then your mind starts to want to start working ahead, and you want to be one step ahead of the movie. And it's kind of... The second twist is easy to figure out once you start thinking ahead. I will not talk about the third twist at all. That you have to see for yourself. Yeah. So, okay. Now, having said that, yeah, I like the movie for the most part, but after that hour or so, when it got more into the sci-fi realm of things, yeah, I found, much like I was just talking about with Top 5, I found the first half of it a lot more interesting than the second half. Because it kind of... I mean, clearly it goes off the deep end, obviously, with its twist, but that may not necessarily be a bad thing. But it felt... I don't know. The second half just really wasn't doing it for me as much as the first hour was, because that was really, really intriguing. Because it's basically... It's Sarah Snook's movie for the first hour, and as huge of a fan as I am of Ethan Hawke, in that last half hour, the movie's kind of handed back over to Ethan Hawke. And that's... His character is not near as interesting as hers is. So, it kind of... My interest kind of shifted with the character shift. So, yes. I never would have guessed how similar my reviews of Top 5 and Predestination are.
Wow.
But, so, yeah. I don't know, maybe if it, didn't turn into a sci-fi action movie, I don't know where it would have gone, but maybe it would have been, or maybe if it had been, I don't know. If the second half had been the whole movie, or if the first half had been the whole movie, they would have been two totally separate movies. And it would have been interesting to see either one that way. But I think I like the Sarah Snook story more. Like, if the movie had starred her and been this character, it would have been something I liked a little better. The movie's still alright. It's definitely worth looking at, for sure. Especially if you're morbidly curious. Because it's like this movie was made for the morbidly curious. So yes, you kind of just have to see it. Yeah. I don't want to say anything about it. I just want you to see it for yourself. So, Predestination is definitely worth checking out. Even if you think it's bad, still you'll have something to talk about with people. Even if you hate it, you'll be able to walk up to your friends and say, "Dudes, you will never guess what the fuck I just watched." So, yeah. Okay, our last movie is a movie that's got quite a reputation attached to it, and not necessarily in a positive way. We're talking about a movie that was supposed to be released about 2 years ago, but things were going wrong. I'm talking about Serena, the movie that's supposed to be the immediate follow-up to Silver Linings Playbook, starring Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence. And it's a book that I read a while back. That I thought was really good, and it's basically, it's There Will Be Blood with timber instead of oil, is basically what the book was.
That sounds interesting.
Where Bradley Cooper is the owner of this timber company, and he's willing to do anything to stay on top.
Who's the HW?
Well, technically he would be.
Really?
Because Serena is really the Daniel Plainview here.
Interesting.
Because he meets Serena, and they get married, and then she realizes that she can basically take control of this company for him. And she ends up being this extremely sadistic person who will go to, by any means necessary, to make their business the ultimate business. Even if that means piling up bodies.
Nice.
That's how the book was.
Oh, man.
When I read the book and I knew about the movie, I was like, holy shit, Jennifer Lawrence is going to eat this role alive. I can't wait. And Bradley Cooper's character to an extent, because he goes along with her. He's not an innocent by any means. Yeah. I can understand, because here's the thing. Now, naturally, I was looking at this. I understand how book readers feel when this movie happened, because I was thinking, the movie kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and I guess, it was going through post-production hell, and people just weren't really happy with it. Bradley Cooper, I think, went on record and said he didn't want it to be released. Just nobody was happy with it, and nobody was putting it out. And when people started seeing it, bad word started getting out. That there was a reason it was being hidden from people. And I was flabbergasted because I was thinking it would take a lot to mess up this source material.
Yeah.
Because the material's great. It's a really great setup. And the book tells a really great story, I thought, anyway. It was going to be really difficult for them to fuck this up. And a lot of people were building it up like they did. So, finally, the time came. And this movie was put in front of me. And I was really confident. I was thinking, okay, here's what happened. It had a troubled release. And, word's getting out that, Bradley Cooper doesn't want it to be seen. And they're afraid it's going to harm their image or something. Maybe it's just people building it up for nothing. Like, people are going to hate it because they're under the impression they're supposed to hate it because nobody wanted to release it. Because there are decent... I don't have an example off the top of my head, sorry, but there are movies that are, worth your time that just have trouble getting out.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens sometimes. And I was under the impression that people were just going to kind of, jump to it and say, oh, it was, had a trouble production, so it must suck, so I'm going to think that now. Yeah. They changed... I mean, I know, you're supposed to see a movie just for a movie, I gotta be on the book reader side this time, but, there's a lot of great stuff in the book that the movie deliberately changed. But let's start at the beginning. For starters, one thing I really loved about the book was how dark it was. Like, this was a hardcore, dark-ass movie. Like, a sadistic story, And, like I said, I was, the whole time I was reading the book, I was thinking, wow, this is seriously like There Will Be Blood with Wood. However, we're 10 minutes in, and it's the scene where he meets Serena. I believe when the book started, he had just already met Serena, and it's them getting off the train. The opening scene of the book is George and Serena getting off the train, and he sees a guy that he doesn't like sitting there on a bench at the train station, and he walks up and cuts the guy's throat and kills him. That's the opening of the book. In the movie, we get to see him and Serena meet, and they're riding their horses. He sees her riding a horse, so he gets on a horse and rides after her, and they do it's like a fucking romance movie is starting. The score is out of a straight-to-DVD Toby Keith movie. Yeah, so immediately it was okay, this isn't the tone I was looking for. So there's that. I'm not the kind of person... It actually aggravates me a lot when people, complain about this too much. So, and normally I'm not the kind of person that complains about accents. But I will say that Bradley Cooper's accent in this movie, it's hard to say was not, distracting. So there's a lot of things in this movie right away that are off-putting. But I was confident, because I knew where the story was supposed to go, and I was like, don't worry, the story's gonna get good, because they gotta touch on these things. And there's a separate storyline where, we have, there is a girl that George has gotten pregnant and is having his child, has had his child. But he's now married to Serena. And Serena really, really resents that. And while George is doing everything he can to support them, Serena's doing everything she can to do away with them. And that involves some of our side characters. It's got a good cast list here. We have Rhys Ifans, who is the guy that kind of he's just kind of there, and he's kind of like the main worker in the timber company, and Serena kind of sees him as a way into, if George won't do it, maybe he will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can get anybody right there on my finger that I want. There's Toby Jones, who is the guy that basically knows what they're doing is off, and he's basically trying his best to put a stop to them in one way or another, catch them in the act doing something they really shouldn't be, like committing murder. And there's Sean Harris, who is in a lot of movies lately. He's basically the guy that's kind of on the sidelines, that kind of sees what's going on, but he's kind of having an inner debate as to whether or not to do something about it. The cast list is fine. The trouble is that we have a lot of good actors here, giving kind of weak performances.
Mm.
Like, I thought Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper would just really, really go to town on these roles. But they're just kind of there. It's like they're doing the movie as like a chore or something. And I just wasn't feeling it. So that right away, like, even if the rest of the movie had stayed the way it is, if Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper had just given it their all, I think this movie could have really been seen a lot higher than it is. I think that would have elevated it enough to be a good movie. But they didn't seem to really care much. So it's really interesting to wonder what exactly went into this production to, like, because this could have gone so well.
Yeah.
It's curious to me what happened between let's do this movie and when cameras rolled, because clearly something changed between then. It's hard to say. Because the production design's really good, the costume design is top notch, all that stuff really works, but it's just they've really weakened the story from what it was, and the performances don't even try to carry it. Another problem is it tries to. This movie's this movie's trying to be erotic.
Mm.
Like, I think it kind of also wants to be like this kind of sexy, erotic type movie. But the sex scenes are just, awkward and very like early 90s, Cheryl and Fenn movies. So that Julian Sands movies, I think they did a movie together finally at one point. But,
Shannon Tweed.
Jesus.
The Scorned movie.
So, yeah, the potential was definitely there. This movie could have gone so well, but no, and the ending totally changes. There is you would like this, even though you'll probably never see this movie. If anybody watching this has read the book for Serena, the very, very, very crucial scene involving a snake, not here.
Yes.
They do it, the same result, in a different way, and I kind of had to stifle laughter, because the scene I'm referring to in the book is a very harrowing moment. In the movie, the way it plays out, it's kind of funny. in the wrong way, not intentionally either. It's just, I can't say it without spoiling it, but it's ridiculous. And then the very ending. The book has a strong epilogue. No, they just clear it all up at the very end of the movie, like really, really fast. Like they're just trying to end the movie as soon as possible. So that, no. Yeah, they really fucked this up. I mean, it's still not a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. It's not going to be as bad as it's built up to be, I'm sure. But it's sad how much was wasted here. Because this could have been something really great. And it's not. So, yeah.
Another wasted opportunity, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's weird how many of the reviews in this video, despite all the different movies, were similar. Yes, we're done here.
So, as we started in the end of the year last year, and we're going to continue this year, we're going to do star amounts for everything, and that's how we're going to end the video. The Woman in Black 2.
I'll be generous. I'll say 2.
Top 5.
2.5.
Predestination.
2.5.
And Serena.
Once again, it's a generous 2.
All right. So next week, how'd you call it again? It's Tay 3N.
Jesus.
Yeah, Taken 3 is next week. Selma is next week, and right now, Inherent Vice has a question mark over its head right now.
Not anytime soon.
Doesn't look promising. We had it, and then we lost it, so hopefully we get it soon.
I think you just didn't see the only 400 screens part of it.
No, I just saw the bookings on the email that said that we were getting it, so I have no idea what changed. And we've got other stuff coming soon. Don't forget, we're not done with 2014 movies yet. We still have Most Violent Year coming soon. We have
Sniper in a couple weeks.
American Sniper is going to be coming in a couple weeks.
Oh, before I do
literally a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
This was kind of funny to me. Like, I saw it and I was like, whoa. It's not that big a deal, but it just kind of struck me as bizarre.
Okay.
The guy he plays in American Sniper, Chris Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Kyle is the name of the screenwriter of Serena.
That's funny.
And it's not the same person.
I'm sure.
Clearly.
That's funny.
So I thought that was bizarre.
That is kind of strange.
And worth noting.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's worth noting. We've got the Imitation Game coming.
You said the Theory of Everything.
Yeah, I did.
Everybody wants to compare the Theory of Everything with the Imitation Game.
We've already got that review up here.
Yes, we do.
And check that out if you get a chance to. Tomorrow, we're going to do a spoiler alert, but it's not a traditional spoiler alert. It's just basically going to be a really good review of one movie that we've been hyping up for quite a while. You've been hyping up for almost 2 years now.
I love how you're like all secretive about it when they can clearly figure it out through clues.
Yeah, context clues are how pop works, folks. Sunday, brand new verses. We're going to be Lost in the 50s. And Monday, we're going to kick into our worst movies of 2014. On Tuesday, we're going to get the Golden Globe video, which is going to be me and AJ's video. And there's going to be an addendum video that I'm going to do myself, which is going to be Ashley's predictions as well. That's coming up. Vlog of Randomness is probably going to be for the People's Choice Awards this time around.
You're on your own.
I know, 100% on my own, just like it was last year. Sippin' Snack's going to go into Lay's potato chips, barbecue variety, and Friday back to the movie reviews. So we got a lot of stuff. Our first award show after that Friday, we have it on that Sunday. So the Golden Globe's coming very soon. It's crazy. PGA is this Monday, so we're really kicking in right now. So stay tuned with the movie content on Pop. Don't forget wrestling content not going anywhere. I may give up on SmackDown, I'm not going to lie. Might just do NXT and Raw on Monday, so that may be a possibility. Try to do Wrestle Kingdom 9 if I can. Impact returns next week, so I'm going to work on that. And enjoy all the different segments here on Pop. Enjoy 2015. So, AJ, any parting words?